Afternoon and welcome everybody. Thank you for registering and joining us at today's webinar, which is all about the hospitality workplace of the future. I always look forward to our webinars, but this one I'm especially looking forward to, as I know I will learn a lot about cybersecurity and operational excellence. My name is Jane Pendlebury. I'm the CEO of HOSPA, the Hospitality Professionals Association. It's Thursday, 22nd of May. It's 2 p.m. in London, and it's I was going to say a beautiful sunny day. It was earlier. It's rather cloudy now, but I think quite warm in the UK. I'm joined today by James Savoury, who some of you will have met when we ran an event in a London club back in February, and Paul Murgatroyd, both of whom are representing Ireland today. We're due to be chatting for around 25-30 minutes with time for questions at the end, but please do pop your questions in the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen throughout, and we'll come back to you. If there's not enough time to answer all the queries, then we'll get back to you separately afterwards. So I'm delighted to be joined by James and Paul from Ireland. I'm going to hand over to them now so that they can share important information and all about best practice and what the world looks like in hospitality browsing in a safe perspective. Over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Jane, and it's a pleasure to be talking to this group again. The way that we decided that we'd approach this session was more of an information sharing session, talk a little bit about why we're seeing the enterprise browser category take shape within the hospitality sector and why many hotel chains are starting to adopt us as their hospitality workplace of the future. The idea here really is to impart knowledge, talk a little bit about some of the challenges that have led to the creation of an enterprise browser category, and then also some of the things that we solve for and why it's being utilized. We will also show it. My colleague Paul will bring it to life a little bit, because sometimes it's a slightly nebulous concept when we talk about a browser, whereas people wonder, well, I already have one of those. Why would I need another one? Certainly, why would I even consider deploying one that's a paid for product? I have a couple of slides I'm going to use. As I say, we can, if you have questions, we can pop them in, and my colleague Paul will see them in the chat, and we can try and address them as we go, or there will be time at the end. So let me start here. Okay. Hopefully everyone is seeing that. I'm going to work on the fact that someone will tell me if we're not seeing it. So the enterprise browser category comes around really because browsers in the whole are the most widely deployed applications in the world today. A consumer-based application that's used by more than 5 billion people. And it is exactly that. It's a consumer-based product. But it has become much more than that for most enterprises. And arguably, it's probably the most widely deployed enterprise application today that's not actually an enterprise application. To use an analogy, it's a bit like using a kitchen table in a boardroom. You wouldn't do it. It's not designed. A kitchen table is not designed to host meetings, to have all of the AV and voice and controls that you need. And we just wouldn't do it. So we wouldn't have a kitchen table. But we have somehow decided to have a consumer-based application as the work portal to get access to our applications. But what does that let us to do? Well, because we're going to SaaS and web-based applications from this consumer-based application, we have to start surrounding it with security controls. And the reason we do that is because a browser is an information access portal designed to freely access information, to move it down, to download it, to get access to it. But now that we're using it to access your critical applications, that might be your booking management systems, it might be your finance systems, it might be your HR systems. Now we don't want the same freedom of movement for data. We want to control it. So we do some gymnastics and we put things around it, all the time adding complexity and cost. Then we have the device itself that it's running on, the endpoint, which is now very much the edge. It's the edge of our networks. And now we're having to do things because they're not all applications are SaaS or web-based. Some of them are in our data centers and we have to VPN into them, or some of them are thick applications that we have to create VDI sessions for, and a whole host of other things. And we're downloading agents onto these devices. And then we get back to the browser itself. And in order to give productivity, we're starting to introduce extensions and plugins. And the whole time we're adding this complexity into something that was really designed in the browser to go directly to the application. Who are the people that are suffering? It's usually the users, and it's usually the IT teams. The IT teams are struggling to keep up, to keep on top of things, and the users are having to do multiple gymnastics in order to get to do the thing that they need to do, which is give your guests a great experience, or to upload financial information in a timely manner to meet whatever considerations need to be met. What does this look like from the IT perspective? Whether you're understaffed, you're over demanded, and the business is driving forward, and you end up in this vicious cycle where the demands with budget constraints means that you're having to move quicker than you want to move, creating the suboptimal matrix of solutions that are causing point solutions to be introduced into creating that complexity that ultimately leads to harder to get back on top and to stop that tech debt that are masses, and ultimately it's the users that are gonna feel the pain of that. And it all comes back down to that point that I said at the start, that the browser itself, that consumer-based application, is sat there not playing any active part, none whatsoever. In fact, it's sat there causing you a problem. And that's really where we came at this problem from, thinking about what if we didn't have that world where that consumer-based application is not playing an active part? What if we started to integrate it? What if we made it an active part of the technology stack? What would we be able to do? What would that look like? Where could we go with it? How would that benefit the users? How would it benefit the business? How would it make the life of the IT team and the security team better? So the enterprise browser category really comes from this concept of there's a Chromium open source project. And if we fork a version of that Chromium open source project and have that as the underlying code, we create this technical advantage to build upon. And that technical advantage starts with the fact that I don't have to train my users on how to use a browser. They've already got the knowledge they need to be able to get in and use it and work. The second thing is I'm building on the Chromium open source project. So therefore, if it's going to work in a browser today, a Chrome or an Edge browser, it's going to work seamlessly in any enterprise browser. And then my deployment is easy. My deployment is easy because it's as easy as deploying a browser. So that's the foundation to build upon. And that creates the opportunity then to collapse so many of the technologies that we traditionally surround a browser with into the browser code itself. So what does that look like? Well, it might look like that you put your secure web gateway directly into the browser. That gives you an advantage. It means that at the point that the user, your staff, are trying to access sites that may have been blocked for whatever reason, you're able to interact with them in your language, explain to them why it's blocked, but most importantly, give them the opportunity to ask and raise a ticket or ask for an exception so they could get access to that website. So we're not stopping people anymore. What we're doing is at the point that the controls are in place, giving them the option to self-service, giving them quicker access. We'll integrate into your identity provider. By integrating into an identity provider, what it means is management of application access is much simpler. We can give access to applications based on who the user is, where they are in the world, what device they're accessing from, what privileges they have. That means that users that maybe are starting on their first day only really need to log into one application access portal. All the other applications are instantly provided to them based on what they should be doing. The next thing is around data loss. Actually, if you think about it, if I control the display layer and I can control how data is flowing, what I'm actually going to say is, I already trust these applications to hold my data, my sensitive data. Rather than trying to tag it and understand where it's going, just keep that sensitive information in those applications that you trust. Build a boundary around those applications and let data flow freely between them, but don't let them get spilled out onto the desktop or emailed out of the system or copied into a non-corporate application. in many ways, you're really allowing your users to get to work without putting blockers in their place. But in the event that an a user unwittingly makes a mistake and tries to drop data outside, you gently guide them back towards the right behaviors. It's why it's more of a workplace than a tool, because actually what you're doing is at that last minute, you're getting involved with the user to remind them of what the corporate standard is, how they should be handling the data, how they should be handling applications. Take that one step further to security. There's lots of reasons why users might need to click on links or upload information or download information. Now, when it's a legitimate use case, then that's right and proper. But because malicious actors will ultimately try and capitalize on that innate need for your users to offer good customer service, they'll exploit that. But having the ability at that crucial moment to say, do you think you should be, should you really click on this link? Because we know at the back end that it's not the right application. It's not the right booking.com site. It's not the right Office 365 site. Well, at that point, to interject to the user and just give them a message to say, this isn't the right place to be traveling to, this isn't where you should be going, or stopping them completely, all becomes possible in the enterprise browser space because you're interacting with them right at that point where they are interacting with those applications, not trying to do it outside of the browser. So what are other hospitality clients telling us that they're seeing from taking this approach? Well, the reality is that they're seeing huge reduction in the amount of management they need to do when they take one platform approach with an enterprise browser. Bringing everything down into one place and not having multiple tools surrounding the browser drastically reduces the complexity. By being able to interact with your users in a language that you want to use, which is corporate, rather than a security language, what it means is you can get your users much more productive because you can deliver the right information to them at the point that they need it most, because you get contextual awareness. Of course, as you'd expect, if you were going to create a new browser, you would of course build in enterprise-grade security. What that means is that things like traditional phishing attempts, account takeover, all of that can be mitigated downstream because some of the traditional approaches, which are copying passwords off of your clipboards or putting scraping tools into take tokens or cookies, can all be prevented just by simply using different algorithms. There's obviously a financial benefit from reducing the amount of vendors or VDI and infrastructure. But the thing that we hear the most is that when customers are using an enterprise browser, what they're experiencing is the ability to deliver their own applications portal, branding it with the organization's branding so that it's not about using a browser anymore. It's about using a work application, about using an application delivery system, about using a workplace. And that means that people have a sense of ownership and brand recognition when they're utilizing it. Perfect for when people are coming in on BYO devices, or maybe when people are coming in on temporary contracts, getting in quickly, utilizing the corporate application, being able to get to work, doing their work, and then switching out of it at the end of the day. And the last point there that we see time and time again is reducing technical debt. Because of the slide that I talked about earlier with that vicious cycle, being able to very quickly capitalize on the technology and to deploy it means that you're not spending as much time patching up or integrating systems, but you're spending more time delivering applications to the user, allowing the users to get to work and to get to and do their job. It's not just us that think this. As an enterprise browser company, you'd expect me to have told you all of that, but Gartner predict that by 2031, that the enterprise browser category as a whole will be the main platform which security and productivity will be delivered. And we are, we as one of the vendors in the space are already starting to see this this growth and expansion of this approach. I'd encourage you to go and read this report. You can see there the full descriptor. That will stop. I'll stop there on the why, but let's start talking about the how, and that's where my colleague Paul's going to come in and just show some of what I've just been talking about. Because actually, with this concept, really, it's about seeing it and understanding how those concepts I've just talked about manifest themselves in reality. So I'll stop sharing, Paul. I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, James. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and we can show you some of these examples in action. So what you're seeing on my screen now is our version of what a HOSPA, in this case, enterprise browser, may well look like. And as James mentioned, that's a fully branded corporate application that you're ultimately asking your employees, end users, colleagues to actually use to access your applications and services on a daily basis. Now, we do this because it makes it a much easier conversation rather than asking them to use a different browser or something like that. You're asking them to use your corporate application. To do that, we'll integrate with your identity platform. So we know who is actually logging into the browser, and we can then start to apply policy and control to them based on the groups they're in, the applications they need access to, all the controls that you ultimately want to put in place. Now, because the browser itself is actually installed on the end user's local device, it also understands what that device looks like. So is it encrypted? Is it running an approved form of anti-malware? Is the firewall enabled? Is it on the hotel network? Is it on Wi-Fi? Has it moved location? Would you typically expect it to be in Spain and suddenly it turns up in China or something like that? All of those capabilities and controls can ultimately be used to configure, firstly, just the look and feel of the browser. So that could be, I'm in a specific hotel, therefore my background changes to a specific image that I want to show that week, that month, that year, whatever your preference. But also, what applications do I have access to? And you'll note here on the browser homepage that we're provisioning a set of applications for the user. Now, again, that could be based on the groups that they're in, whether they're in the concierge group, whether they're on reception that day, or whatever they need. They'll have all the applications available to them straight away and instantly once they log into the browser itself. Now, because we're a browser, we've layered in some very simple capabilities into the platform. One of which is what we would class as safe and secure browsing. So as James mentioned, if I am just browsing the web normally, or I'm asked to find something, in a local area and it's blocked, you can see that one of the benefits here is that, first of all, you can give that user a fully customized, fully branded kind of explanation of why something is being blocked. But also they have the ability to actually request access. So that can now flow into your kind of traditional workflow, service desk approval type approach, whereby somebody can then say, yes, you can have access to this website for the next day, the next couple of hours, the next week, etc. And that's very quick. Once that's approved, the browser knows, it will update and actually prompt the user to let them know they've been given access as well. Now, equally, that's one way to approach it. But because we ultimately give you full control over the presentation layer of the browser itself, we can allow you to actually open up the web browser and give you full control over it still. So I can now browse to any website that I want, but actually all those websites have been made read-only. So you're no longer at risk of potential data theft, or a user uploading something they shouldn't, or putting their credentials into a website that you may not trust. And as a result of that, we can obviously reduce the scenario of account takeover and just general data leakage across different platforms. Now, obviously, there's those scenarios where an end user does need to be able to enter their credentials into specific trusted applications, and we can work to allow that to happen and allow the user to move forward if they need to do so. But maybe we take a scenario where it's, late in the day, we've had a request come through from a guest, perhaps, or somebody purporting to be a guest, asking somebody to, visit a website, sign into an OTA or your Office 365 instance to, achieve something that they're asking for. Maybe their mother's visiting, they need some confirmation of what the hotel can provide them or something like that. You'll see that the moment we click on that link, the browser is actually saying, hey, be careful. This looks suspicious. We know you probably might need to move forward and do something, but just be careful. So the user can hit continue, and you'll see that this is loading up into what looks like an Office 365 login page in this scenario. We're calling this out. We're saying it's a non-corporate site, so we don't have policy assigned to it. But on top of that, the moment that member of staff starts to enter their credentials and then they complete their email address, the browser kicks in again saying, hey, this really doesn't look like a good site to me. Are you sure this is what you want to do? So just prompting them, helping them to understand this really isn't the right login that they're trying to achieve. Now, it could well be that based on the scenario, this is an application that you're okay with them logging into, in which case they can move forward. They're just being bumped and saying, hey, just make sure this is what you think it is. But because we also have categories built into our platform, you can build policy against those categories. So you can say, anything that's phishing, anything that's not travel related, we're just going to block. So you can't actually put your credentials in on a specific machine or a specific user account if this isn't a travel-based website. So again, just starting to give you additional protections against things like account takeover and general kind of risk of losing the hotel or the chain credentials as you move forward. Now, how some of that can ultimately kind of manifest itself into a corporate application, say something like Opera running in the browser or similar, is we can give you full control over that application. So you'll see as I come into, in this example, just a Salesforce instance, that everything looks normal. However, I'm watermarking this application. So just giving you a very quick kind of indicator that you're no longer in a personal application. It's now a corporate app, so be careful with the data that you're working with. Equally, because of that, the browser is putting some controls in place at the presentation layer. So now if I try and save this page, you'll see that I'm physically prevented from doing so. And again, all of the notifications, all of the messaging that you see, fully customizable, so that we can talk your language to your employees to help them understand why something is in place. And then as I scroll down, what you'll see down here on the right-hand corner is I've got some credit card numbers and the CVV that's been masked. Now we actually say, soft redact in this scenario because unlike a traditional approach, we're actually able to reveal this data. So if I have the permissions to do so, and maybe not everybody needs it, I can actually reveal the data. But again, I'm getting a fully customizable message that allows me to inform the end user that we'll know that they've seen this data. So, fine if it's a business process, but we are going to have an audit of that event. So now I've got the customer data. I could choose to unmask certain portions of it if I wanted to, or not allow it at all, as we say. I can also copy this data. So I can very quickly just grab information from my corporate application. And rather than what would traditionally happen is it going to the clipboard that's running at the operating system layer, it's actually going to go to a clipboard that runs in the browser. Now that means that we can actually give you more control over the flow of data as a result of that. So as an example, again, if I jump back into my corporate email, I can now paste that data into my email platform with no problem at all. And I can do that because Island is understanding the data boundaries between your corporate applications. We know that this is a corporate version of Office 365 that we're logged into. And we're able to differentiate that between a personal version or a different application running in the browser. And as a result of that, we've built a data boundary around Salesforce and Office 365, allowing that data to flow freely. But if I come across into, let's say, my own personal Gmail, for instance, which again, I can access in the browser with no problem at all, but I do have some restrictions in place. You'll have noted that the moment I moved across into my Gmail, all of my Salesforce and my corporate data is grayed out. So that if I now try and paste that data, I'm physically prevented from doing so. So whether it's accidental, it's the end of the day and someone's just, accidentally dropping something into their own personal application, or it's even on purpose in some scenarios, then Island can help you to actually prevent that data loss from occurring. And we're really talking about a different way of looking at data loss, because traditionally it's all been focused around the data itself, which is much harder to identify. We're simply saying you already trust these applications to store your data, whether they be on-premise or cloud hosted. Let's simply make sure that the data stays within those applications and doesn't go anywhere that you ultimately don't want it to go. Now, I can do a whole host of other things, including controlling where downloads were potentially directed. I can provide access to internal applications, for instance, very quickly, very easily through our own zero trust network access capability. You'll see our device posture is kicking in here just to start to give me some visibility into the configuration of the device. But now I'm allowed to access an internal application with no problem at all. We're doing this through integration with our own zero trust network access capability. So we can remove the need for VPN or any third-party kind of connectivity solutions if you wish to do so. Equally, we can integrate with them as well. So, giving you much more value from existing investment as well. And then on top of that, for those sites where maybe it's a single login or a shared login, for example, the browser can actually be used to provide credentials for that application. So now I can sign into this application without needing to know the username and password. So we have, particularly hospitality customers who are sharing credentials across their concierges, for example, for car booking services or, kind of restaurant logins, things like that, where they need to be using them very quickly, very easily. They're just injected straight away for them as they jump in. And then ultimately, everything that we're doing in the browser and everything that we're, controlling and getting visibility of is all going to flow back to our management console. And it's here where not only are you going to apply and create policy for those applications, but actually get full visibility into what's going on across your estate. So by deploying our browser or even our extension into your current existing browsers, you'll get a lot more visibility about what's happening across the environment. Things like, what's your device status? How many devices aren't encrypted? Do I have potential man-in-the-middle events where somebody's trying to sniff my network traffic and maybe grab passwords as a result of that? Do I see potential phishing incidents? So again, where are my users putting in their credentials? And, are we seeing that that is potentially being harvested somewhere? On top of that, we can also give you full visibility into all the installed extensions across your deployed browsers. So this has become a very hot topic for all our customers recently, and particularly in the hospitality space, where now I can give you full visibility into every single extension that's deployed across your environment. Island, we actually risk score these extensions. So now you can look and say, okay, what's particularly interesting within my environment? Well, I've got a critical rated extension here. So again, I can jump into that. I can look at more details and better understand why that extension is potentially risky. I could then choose to block it if I wanted to, and I could do that based on a risk score. I could do it based on a specific extension, or even down to a category of extension. So I could say, for example, all extensions are allowed apart from generative AI, to give a quick example there. Equally, we know that things like, shadow IT and shadow application usage are, a very big kind of issue across the space as well. So again, we can give you visibility into what applications are being used that you may not have any visibility into at all. And on top of that, we can even collect things like application logins. So you can see, well, actually, which applications are being used within my hotels that I maybe didn't know about, and how are people logging into them? So are they using their corporate email address, or are they logging in with very simple usernames and very low quality passwords, for example? Just giving you that extra level of visibility so that you can understand exactly what's going on across the space and your potential risk posture. And then obviously, as you would expect for an enterprise browser, we'll give you a full list of kind of, websites and locations that your users are browsing to, but with the ability to choose how you want to log that data. So because we're not a proxy, we're not a SASE solution, we don't need to worry about things like SSL inspection or decryption. We see everything in the browser itself. But that also allows you to make decisions about how you want to log data. So you can see here that as I'm on our management console, my browsing is anonymous. My admins don't know, what URLs I'm looking at. They don't even know what my username is in some cases. And you could even choose not to log data at all. Maybe when an employee is looking at, Amazon during their lunchtime or something like that, you simply don't need to know that information. But what you do need to know is when they go to a corporate website, and we'll take Salesforce again as that example. I can now show you, if you wish to do so, exactly where that user was clicking within the application, if needs be. I could even record keystrokes and give you visibility into exactly what's happening. So when somebody is interacting with an OTA or they're making a change in the cloud admin console, you have full visibility of that, with obviously then the ability to potentially roll back or even layer in things like two-factor authentication before the change is made, for example. Because from an island perspective, it's incredibly important that we fit in with the rest of your infrastructure and architecture. We can send all of that data, as you would expect, to a SIM platform of your choice or a log management tool, wherever you want that to go. So not only can we get that data in, we can also get it out so that we can integrate with the rest of your environment and the rest of your log management strategy. So I'll pause there, bit of a quick spin through some of the capabilities that we've built in the platform. I'm sure there's probably a few questions coming up, so we'll pause there for some questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's definitely a tough world out there for hospitality technology leaders. Their involvement in so many aspects of the digital journey from so many different people, it's quite a responsibility. So I think anything that helps them implement controls has to be welcomed with open arms. So yeah, we've got a couple of questions here. So one of them is, how easy is it for a hotel to implement this system? So often the adoption of new technology is quite a task. Have you any examples of good implementations, or are they all good implementations?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we find is that because it's a browser, the simplicity to deployment is really a matter of minutes. Now, the reality is that there's change management to go through, so that turns into sometimes weeks. But what there isn't is a complex back-end architecture that needs to be navigated in order to connect applications to it, to be able to bring services to this platform, because it's a browser that deploys in the user space. So I can give you an active example that just happened in the last 3 weeks at a travel agency that you will all be familiar with, where we pushed out to thousands of users in a matter of weeks, literally a matter of weeks. And that is, time and time again, we see that type of ease of deployment. And it all comes back down to that simple fact that that browser is a native application that is already known to the organization. You already have them deployed. You're not introducing something new.
Brilliant. Okay. There's another question here. If someone accesses a website that isn't allowed, but marks it as a known site, will this still be flagged on the current screen? It says there. So going back to when you had your screen share on, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime a user makes a determination or sends a response back to the platform, that's all visible within the management console. So if it's something like a an anti-phishing or a credential prompt, and they say this is a known business website, you'll get that response. You can even customize those predefined responses or actually ask the user to enter a full reason themselves. All of that data will flow back to the management console and you'll get full visibility into it.
Brilliant. And one other one, please do keep sending your questions in if there are any more. There's one more here. Oh, hold on, is it making sense? With different departments and different people, I think you did already answer this. Different login, it recognizes who it is that's asking to go on something. So, and then the speed of letting somebody on to something that currently is restricted, I guess that's down to the response of the person on site that's responsible for opening up that page. So that could be the efficiency of the IT manager being tested there.
Sometimes it's a great point, and it's something that that sometimes there'll be sites that you just want to warn people, and actually the simple fact of making sure that someone's thought about it beforehand is enough, because we trust our users. Inherently, we trust our users. So sometimes simply it's a great way of just jogging the memory of that cybersecurity training that we did 6-9 months ago, and just saying, are you sure before you click on this? Because if you're sure, then we trust you.
Yeah, no, cool. All right. Oh, there's another one just popped in, actually. I was just about to say we're out of questions, but there's another one here. Do you have scope to see what is being looked at, e.g. sensitive data like credit card details being shared and company details?
I'm wondering if is that the enterprise browser itself, or is that the corporation that has the enterprise browser? I wonder. There's probably two ways to answer that, isn't there, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we can give you full visibility into anything that is being shared or accessed through the browser itself. Now, in the example where you saw in Salesforce, we had masked credit card data. We would record the fact that that was unmasked. So you would have visibility into the fact that the user has seen that data and who the user is. We can also build policy against any other kind of aspect of that website. So if you have a field that always contains the customer's address, for instance, again, we could mask that. And then when that's unmasked or somebody gets visibility into it or even copies it, then again, we can actually log that data and show you, hey, somebody copied this field or this information. We may not log the actual underlying data itself, although we can with some of our DLP capabilities. Most customers prefer to just know that this user accessed this field in this URL, which will ultimately take them back to a specific customer account or something like that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, I think that's probably it on questions. I'm sure if there are further questions, they will come back to ask them anyway. But a big thank you to both of you, James and Paul. It's good to see a solution offering hoteliers the opportunity to have their teams working in a much safer digital environment. So thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. And thank you to you all for listening as well. As ever, if you need formal advice, then please approach your professional advisors or come to me at Hosper for a referral. And if you would like an introduction to Ireland, then please let me know and I'll be really happy to connect you. Please also take a look at hosper.org, our website, for other upcoming events. There are many. Our annual finance update with BDO is the next one on the 5th of June. And we've got the Hotel Marketing Awards at the Savoy, which will be lovely on June 16th. And finally, if you like golf, then please take a look at our event at the Belfry in August. Also on the website, you'll find recordings of all of our webinars and masterclasses, which are also on our YouTube channel. And today's will be uploaded within the next few days as well, along with a blog about the webinar. So thank you all for listening. Thanks again, James and Paul. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks very much and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.